if you can have this goal already in mind, and you see how you can, if you can create a bridge between the guys building that you see on the end with black ink and the guys on the right, the operations team, deploy operations monitor. If you can have a bridge between these two teams, it makes this process a lot more efficient, and you get to, this practice is what is DevOps. You get to make the developer's life easier, and at the same time meeting the objectives set by the business team as well, and making sales and getting feedback from users, and immediately acting on this change and providing a better release. That is what I said the last time. This time, what am I going to say? I will say DevOps for me. When I woke up this morning, I felt like this is what DevOps was. I think DevOps has the architectural aspect and the human aspect. Human here being the resources, the physical resources, the developers, or everyone in the team, the marketing guys, everyone. Your job is basically, how do I make processes easier? So today I would say DevOps person is a process engineer. He is there to make sure that every process that you do that can be avoided is avoided, that can be automated is automated. Any ambiguity between the communication between the operations and the development team, you're there to bridge that as well. When I say bridge that, I don't mean you go and listen to what Ops is saying and come and tell Dev. No, there should be a tool, for example, to track or analytics of the sales that are being made, and how many people sign up. How many people sign up to this product? How many people complain that they are not able to sign up because of technical difficulties? How many people face slow sign-up processes? You collect all of this feedback. There's a tool for that, which you are the one you will set this up, and the ops team will be able to collect this tool, this analytics, and provide it to the dev team, and a release can be provided that solves this issue, and you make sure you roll out this new release without disturbing the current flow of things in production. That is what DevOps can be as well. Next week, I'm pretty sure my answer is going to be different. So that is what DevOps is, and I would say today we're going to be having Joris talk about the security part of software development lifecycle process, because security is not something we have to worry about at the end of the process. It's integrated it's a practice as well. Just like I said, DevOps is a practice. You have to implement these security practices at the different stages of the software development lifecycle to build this resilient and secure system. So there were some points we had there at the table of contents. I don't know if you can go back there with me. Yeah, thank you. So we just introduced, and we're going to be talking about security across the software development lifecycle at each stage, talking about static and dynamic testing. Obviously, we cannot talk about every single thing, but we'll talk about some modern attacks that are more common than you would think it is, and also some recent cyber attacks. Then at the end, we'll have some Q&A. Now, the part about security and across the software development lifecycle would be presented by Joris. The part about there is something else also about Git secrets. It's not in the table of contents. I think that will come after.
In the modern attacks.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. It's in the modern attacks. All right. So that will be an interactive session where I think all of us can join in on the conversation, because this is, at the end of the day, a talk between professionals and aspiring professionals. So that is it for me. I would like to give the floor over to Joris to continue.
Thank you, Lowe. Thank you for the great introduction. So before defining DevSecOps and diving in, I would like to make a little comparison between what we had before and what we have nowadays, what is more frequent. So before we had monolithic applications, so applications were tightly loosed up where we had the front end and back end all built as a single unit, and each changes required a lot of like each integration in the code required to change the whole application. But nowadays we have microservices where we can integrate a feature in a different microservice, as we see. So the shift from monolithic to microservices architecture brought greater scalability and development speed, but it also introduced new security challenges. In a monolithic system, security was easier here because it was a single unit. So we just had to apply a single perimeter-based security, where the whole application has a single perimeter framework or whatever that we can define and base our approach on that. But now in microservices, the application is split into independent services. So we can have like different communicating APIs, different applications that interact with others, and this increases the attack surface. So it gives more work for the security engineer to delimit what is supposed to communicate with what. So to enforce microservice interaction security, we have to first of all think about the network security perimeter. So you cannot design an application with a front end, back end database and let your front end talk to the back end to the database. Sorry. So you can make a sort of perimeter security with container network infrastructures to segment the network interaction between the different microservices. And that is what DevSecOps come into. That is one of the things that DevSecOps does. So why do we need DevSecOps? So there was a recent investigation made by IBM, which said that if we find a bug in a system in the design stage, the impact can be 1. Like we can level the impact at 1. If we find it in the implementation stage, we can level the impact at 6.5. If we find it in the testing stage, we can level the impact as 15. But if we find it, and it will cost much more for you to fix the issue. So just imagine you're having a fintech, you build application, financial solutions, or even a social media where a lot of people have their data into the system. And you just think about the security part of the system once you go to production and a data leak happens. How do you manage that? So it is very important to think about security at the early stage of the software development life cycle. So from design, you should think about security. What can I do to make my application safe? From the implementation, you should think about it. Every stage, you should think about security. So DevSecOps, like Lowe said, DevOps brings the interaction between development and operations team. And DevSecOps also brings the interaction between those three teams, development, security, and operation. So now security is not just the matter of the security engineer. Security is a matter of everyone. The developer should think about security when coding his code. When writing his code, he should think about secure coding. There are best coding practices I should think about. He should not hard code some secrets. We can help him with some static analysis to maybe identify some packages that are outdated or that are flawful. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we can do to help the whole SDLC to get safer and have a mature product and safe. And yeah, what is DevSecOps? Basically, I just said it, but what are the different stages that we can have in DevSecOps? So at the planning stage of the software development lifecycle, we can have what is called threat modeling. So threat modeling basically is to identify the security threats and vulnerabilities during the design phase. So when you design your application, you have to brainstorm on what can happen, what can go wrong with this application, what are the different interactions that it takes, and what can be the hacker mindset to go around this. So you have to think about that. You have the coding phase where you have secure coding and code review. Yeah, as I said before, the developer should have a secure knowledge, should have security knowledge. They should avoid hard coding secrets. They should think about proper input validation. There should be code review with peers to really look at the code and identify what is wrong. It is not just that we see as long as it works, we don't touch it. No, insecurity does not work like that. it is not as long as it works. As long as it works, we don't touch it. We have to improve on a daily basis. It is really important. So in the build phase, where we build our application, we have what we call SAST and SCA. So SAST stands for Security Application, Static Application Security Testing. Yeah. So at this stage, we kind of run some tools that will go through our code and analyze the code to identify what could be the flaws. Yeah, and we also have SCA. SCA is software composition analysis. It is to scan open source dependencies that you might have in your code. So you might be safe when you write your code, but you have dependencies. You depend on other people. You integrate some other libraries, and yeah, you have to check also if those libraries are safe, or if those open source tools that you're integrating in your own software are safe. So you have to do all these things to be on the right place. Yeah, and then we have the DAST that is in the test phase. This is more like a dynamic analysis. It is not static as the first one. So it is testing the application when it is running. So what can go wrong when I'm running the application? What can the user input in the application that can make it go wrong? That is what we do at DAST. And then in the release phase, we have compliance validation. So most of the industries, they run with some regulatory compliance. Yeah. So for example, for those who are in the financial industry, this is what we call PCI DSS, personal card information, something like that. Yeah, it is it is a regulatory compliance that you should have in order to build an application to be compliant with those standards. So to be sure that you follow the best practices, there are some regulatory compliance that are set up. There's PCI DSS, there's HIPAA, there's GDPR that you can follow to make sure that your application is following the best practices, the best standards that have been defined over the world. Later on, we have the deploy phase where we do logging and auditing. So basically, logging and auditing is just recording the different interactions of the system and reviewing them. Like you have to audit your system, know how it behaves, and based on that, you can define other security measures. And in the operating stage, we have what we call patch. Yeah, so patch is just regularly applying security fixes to the software. In the monitoring phase, we have security monitoring. So you have to continuously watch the threat anomalies that happen and the intrusions that might happen in your system. So in that phase, you use tools like SIEMs, XDRs, firewalls to monitor and block any threat that can be there. So next, yeah, we talked about SAST in the SDLC. So yeah, basically SAST, static application security testing, it is a security technique that analyzes your code or binary without running the application. So it helps the developers to find the vulnerabilities like SQL injection, insecure code patterns, XSS in the early development phase. Yeah, so how it works. The SAST use patterns like data flow analysis, control flow analysis, or pattern matching to detect the security issues that you might have in your code. And it is mostly a tool that developers should know how to use because it is based on the development language you use. Based on the development language that you use, you have to write the SAST tool. You have to write the code for your SAST tool to like process the application and detect what can be the flaws in the application. At this stage, yeah, we don't need to execute the code. It is developer friendly. It promotes secure coding practices. Yeah, so it will scan throughout your application and tell you, okay, don't use this, use this. It will point out your code and tell you what would be wrong, what can go wrong in your code. The only cons we have here is like it does not analyze the application that run, but yeah, we have DAST that works in pair with SAST. We have a very high risk of false positives. So false positives in security testing are less of findings that are incorrectly identified. So maybe your tool can tell you that this is a vulnerability, but in reality it is not. So you need to know, you need to have like a security engineer to analyze the reports with you and tell you, okay, this has been detected, but we can leave it aside. Yeah. And also in security, we really get a lot of alerts. You can make a SAST scan and get like 1,000 vulnerabilities in your code, but you cannot really, how can I say, you cannot really focus on all of them. Yeah, you have to prioritize. Yeah, you have to move from the most high issues to the lowest. So you have to prioritize what is most probable to happen. The ones that are identified as low, there's a fewer chance for them to happen. There's a fewer chance for an attacker to abuse from those threats. So you have to prioritize the the reports that are coming with high level alerts and apply the fixes accordingly. And yeah, next I will talk a bit about Dust. So Dust basically is running the application, is testing the application as it is running to find any vulnerabilities that can happen at runtime. Yeah. So we can have stuff like misconfigured authentication, exposed APIs, or injection flaws that can happen that we can detect with Dust tools. So Dust basically simulates real-world attacks, and it helps you identify what can go on when the application is running. So it is not dependent of the application source code. You just need to run your application and write also the code for the Dust tool to properly analyze your tool. It immediately finds vulnerabilities that could be exploited when the application is in runtime. What else? How it works also. There are some general attack patterns that have been designed. So there are some real-world scenarios where when we do pen testing, we know, okay, these are the phases of attack. Reconnaissance, exploitation, data exfiltration, there are different stages. So in the Dust, we will configure those stages and we'll make it run on our different application, and it's going to find out what can go wrong if we push this application to production. Okay. So yeah, that was quite fast.
Yeah, so so before you go here, so you were just talking about disaster and Dust. So a simpler way to put it would be with the static testing. This is review that you can see from the code. So you can see by looking at the code. So if a reviewer is able to look at your code, you'll be able to tell if there is a security vulnerability from the way you coded something. This is why it's very important to review your code. Actually, in good environments, good working environments, everyone's code is reviewed. So there is not one person's reviewing other people's code. Everyone, the way it's supposed to work is everyone is supposed to review other person's code. There are other benefits to this, but I'll focus on security because everyone, we're all humans. Everyone can make a mistake. Your team lead could push something that could push a vulnerability unknowingly. So in a good environment, everyone has to. That's why peer review in itself is a security practice. Like Joris was saying, in DevSecOps, it's a practice. DevOps is a practice. It's not a one person's job. It's a practice that the whole team has to adopt. So we have to adopt peer code reviews. It's not just important for a senior to see what the junior is doing and see if it's correct. It's also important for everyone to see what everyone is doing, because apart from the fact that you can learn from the other person's code, is that you can pick off something that they left off unintentionally. So this is a practice that goes from the planning phase, like you said. I mean, you need to go back and forth between the DevSecOps and modern threats. Yeah. So this is a practice that goes from the planning phase to monitoring. So I would put it. I think it makes sense to have like a little bit of a hypothetical scenario. So say we want to build What's the most common app I see around me? Food delivery app. Yeah, so you want to build if a restaurant food delivery app, for instance, the first thing you do is you plan. You don't just go straight into code. You plan. You plan the development part of it. What do I need? How am I going? What is the best way to do this? How many users am I expecting? What is the projection here? Is it something that's going to be used just locally, or do I have to open it up to international users? I have said no. I want to, for the beginning, I want to just start with the population in Cameroon, or just even one town. Let's say Cameroon. And okay, this is what I need. How many users am I? How many? What is my expected? You do something with the business team, and you have to calculate how much users you're expecting. Okay, that's one thing. The next thing is in terms of application architecture. What do I need to achieve this? This everything. Of course, this is not linear. It's not a linear thing. It's not something that you have to do every single time the same way, because it depends on a lot of things: the budget you have, the team you have, and all that. But say you pick out the architectural plan. Okay, I don't really need the microservice for this. Monolithic works for me. I just need to have a front end and a back end that just responds for now. For instance, fine, you plan that. Okay, the next thing is you have to plan how you're going to go about the code, how you're going to go about the testing, how you're going to go about releasing. So that is the architecture that you want. Okay, the next thing in the architecture is the threat modeling, like you said. What would I be exposing myself to if I'm using a Next.js and maybe a Node.js API backend and the database in the cloud, for instance? If I'm using a database in the cloud, what am I going to be exposing myself to? Which ports do I really need to be open? You have to worry about firewall. The only port I need to be open in the front end is the port 80 and 443. But then the API part is hosted. I want the database to be hosted in the cloud. Now, how do I access the database from the API to the cloud system? How do I secure this connection between just both of them? All of this falls into threat modeling. You have to identify what the potential risk could be and how to overcome it. You know that you can do network restrictions, a network restriction on the cloud database to allow access just from that network where the backend is hosted or the API is hosted. And you can also talk about authentication, what kind of authentication you want. And that is it. You model something like this and you move to the next phase. All right. You're building, you're not building. In the process of building, what are the things you should be worried about? You should be worried about not leaking your Git secrets, your secrets through Git, for instance. I've seen people pushing their .env files. It still happens even now. When people do those kind of mistakes, and the .env is not just test information. It has like their actual infrastructure information. This is a practice that it cannot be for one person. It has to be everyone in the team has to be aware of this. You also have to worry about, okay, even why provisioning the database. How do I protect the credentials of access? Is it something that somebody can just ping? Can somebody ping me to death? Can you just keep pinging the server to death if you have access to the machine? You have to talk about, okay, how do I limit this from the API? How do I limit the number of requests that are made to the database? You have to do some sort of rate limiting on the API side of it. And Joris mentioned something earlier about SQL injection. SQL injection is also something else that is a security risk that goes into who is building the request, so to speak. Because it could be something as simple as just to explain a bit what injection could be. It could be like just a simple select statement that you make. For instance, in that whatever shop you're creating in our hypothetical scenario, say you have a select statement like this that does the request to the backend. All a hacker has to do, for instance, in a scenario like this, would be to truncate this request that you're sending. So you are still the one requesting to the database, but they inject into your SQL code, and the request that you make in the backend is something different. To adding something like this would mean it would bypass the user authentication in the first place, and they end up making 10,000 orders that will show in the application that they did not pay for. So it's that's what a SQL injection is. It's something that can be prevented from the way you write. Instead of passing direct SQL commands, maybe it's better to just pass in parameters from somewhere else and things like that. So these are things that you watch out for at every stage. I could keep going. At the build stage, what do we need to worry about? Before you even get to the build stage, we talked about the security vulnerabilities that you can identify by just looking at the code. This is something that has to be done in the code review phase. And in the build phase, you have to worry about the pipeline that you're using. In the pipeline, I've seen people doing this on GitHub Actions, something like this. So you have a secret. You have a secret in GitHub Secrets. You've done that well. Then you come and push it to the shell. This is a security. This is a vulnerability, because if someone can access the runner, they can see this. They can see what you try to hide in the GitHub secret in the env shell or in the bash shell. So this is other kind of things that can be avoided at the build stage. So it's from the one we're saying, you're seeing that it's something that it's not something one person can think of. It's a process. So your job in this case will be to enforce this practice between everyone. You have to educate them, you have to tell them about it, and you guys as a team, you work towards maintaining this practice to keep everything safe at every stage of the software development lifecycle. And on the testing, we talked about testing and different ways you can test and how to identify this. And of course, when you notice something, you go back and you do something to prevent it. And yeah, I just wanted to just mention that since you talked about SQL injection, and at the deploy phase, logging and audit, I cannot emphasize how important this is. You need to be able to log and audit every single thing. You need to know who is accessing. If somebody logs in to the database, you should get a notification. You should know what's happening. If somebody is sending a little bit more requests than they should, you should be able to log this out, and you should be able to set an alert for this. And that's how it goes from phase to phase. There is this practice that you need to maintain. So I want you guys to look at this DevOps and DevSecOps a little bit differently. Instead of looking at it as a job title, look at it as a practice. And yeah, can you go back to the modern threats? I think we just talked about one, SQL injection. Yes. We also have DDoS attacks. And we're having a fun conversation about this yesterday with yours. And you told me a story. I don't know if you can repeat that story about the Bitcoin mining guys. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That one was more in the security leak section. But yeah, we have found some people who had coded their secrets in the GitHub repositories, and what attackers could do with those secrets is like they were able to connect to their servers, and they were mining Bitcoins on the servers. So there are a few things like secret leaking that is very important. You don't have to share your secrets in repositories. You have to enter it in a vault, or you don't need to share it or hard code it anywhere in your code. Yeah, you have to secure it, save it as a secret, save it in a vault. Because if anyone gets access to it, he can get access to your appliances and he can do whatever he wants. He decided to mine Bitcoins, but he could have decided to maybe shut down your servers and you'll be losing money for the rest of the day. Yeah. So in security, most of the time we think about three things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Your data should be confidential, meaning that only the one that is authorized to have access to the data should have access. Yeah. You cannot share maybe banking records of your users with everybody. Yeah, he should be the only one who has access to it. His data should be confidential. Integrity, meaning that no one should be able to change your data. It should be as you did it. Like, for example, I made transactions of 10,000 and someone just comes in the code and changes the 10,000 to 50,000. That is corrupting the integrity of the data. We should ensure that the data is still integral. It should not be corrupted. And availability, as I said before, the attacker could have decided to just shut down your systems and you'll be losing money for the next hours because your system is not available. And yeah, that is what happens in some of the cases. In some of the cases, we have like we can have different type of attacks, like attacks that are just spread to everybody. Like you can have a spamming a phishing campaign here. You just receive mails with junk links. Yeah, that is just like a random attack. And we can have targeted attacks where attackers just focus on a company and they have a major goal. Either they want to exfiltrate data or they want to shut down your system. They can be attackers that are sent by one of your concurrent, like one of your how do we say it? The concurrence with the machine.
Competitors.
Yeah, competitors, exactly. Yeah. So they can decide to shut down your system and you'll be losing money. Just imagine that you have a food delivery service and every day your system is down like for 5 hours. If anyone has the same service and he's always available, and even if he bills more, people will prefer going to his service, or having a food delivery service and maybe you order euro and you receive, and in the system it appears as if you ordered jollof rice. So the attacker can be playing with your system just to drop down your community or whatever. Yeah, those are things that happen. DDoS attacks. Yeah, recently we saw a lot of DDoS attacks happening out there. So DDoS is basically distributed denial of service. So the main goal of DDoS is to shut down your system. How it happens is that the attackers will flood you with a lot of requests in a very short time. So how do they do that? They have a lot of servers that they will make available and they will target your system and they will be sending a lot of requests in a very short amount of time. And if you don't have security measures like API rate limiting, yeah, or maybe a layered security level, like you can put a reverse proxy in front of your application so that the reverse proxy will be receiving all the requests, and maybe if it receives more requests than usual, it will just drop down the messages or put it in the queue. So those are the security measures that you can think about. You can think about security at the application level, at the design level. Yeah, so yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do to be safe. But yeah, as we used to say, no one is really safe. You just have to try to do the best you can. And at the end of the day, you should also think about stuff like data replication. You should think about what if it happens to me, because even the biggest companies got attacked. So what if you do everything? What if you follow the best practices as it is written out there and they still attack you? What do? You have to think about the recovery phase. We also mentioned supply chain attacks. So supply chain attacks is a more sophisticated attack pattern where I might want to maybe attack your system, but I find it difficult. I know maybe you are using third-party libraries or whatever. So what I do, I am able to attack those third-party libraries. I inject some code there, some improper code there, or I inject some ransomware there. And once you download the latest third-party library, you have also the code in your system, and then you're flawed. So based on that, I can do whatever I want based on the threat I wrote. Yeah, so that's some of the stuff we have about supply chain attacks. And I think ransomware, it is maybe the most common attack on this link on this list. Yeah, I don't know who has ever been subject to a ransomware attack here. how did he do to survive? Or who knows how the ransomware attacks work? No one ever received a ransomware.
Maybe you need to explain exactly what a ransomware is.
Like you never open your computer and you see, okay, everything is locked, everything is encrypted, and they ask you to pay for the money before they decrypt your data. Yeah, Christoph.
Yes, I've in my case one time I've opened my computer and all my file was like locked. But unfortunately for the attacker, I didn't get like something important on my computer, so I just redo the completely OS operational system. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I've already faced it, and it's not really nice.
yeah, it is not nice at all. So that's
Yeah,
that's one of the most common attacks we can have.
and I mean, it happened on this computer. Imagine that happening on the software that is running with your company's product. That would not be funny at all. So
Not at all.
it's one of those things. It's one of those vulnerabilities that you don't have the right to not protect yourself from. You have no excuse. You cannot say it happens. It does not happen. You have to protect yourself from something like this at all cost. Because we say it happens to big companies, but whenever it happens, it's a few people at least get fired, not just one person. So it's it's something to if you're building software, it's something to look at. And these things happen a lot more common. It's more common than you would think. It sounds right now, maybe because maybe if you've not heard of it before or you have not been a victim of it, it sounds like a foreign concept to you. It is not, I assure you, it's very common. As a matter of fact, talking about the Bitcoin mining hackers, that has become more common in the last years now with this big Bitcoin thing trend. They have bots that run and check for new sites. As long as your domain goes up like that, they have bots that automatically start testing for vulnerabilities and how to attack you and how to use get access to your servers to be mining their cryptos and other things. There are literally bots for this. So it before you even go to production, like I said, you don't have to wait for when you're in production before you say, okay, now let me worry about security. No. While building, you take these things into account because the attacker does not wait for you to be ready for the attack. So it's that. And talking of DDoS attacks, like we're saying, the denial of service, these are things that, like I said, doing your threat modeling, you have to take these things into account because there are something called known attacks that everyone knows about, that everyone builds their system and their system to be resilient and secure against these known attacks. So there is this, we've mentioned this few, but there's a lot more. I think there's an OWASP list here somewhere. Maybe we'll just talk about it later on. But the point is there's a lot more. It's not just this. For attacks that I've mentioned that are common, there are a lot more common that are known. And it's your responsibility to make sure that the system that you're building is resilient and secured from these known attacks because you know about them already, so you should be able to prevent it. And yeah, otherwise follow. He talked about not giving more access to someone, and integrity. There's a policy called zero trust, where you try to you give everyone just the amount of access data they require. So, for example, if you have an organization email, you should not be able to, for example, if you have maybe a cloud account, me as a developer, I should not be able to go into the backup server and be doing things there. I should not have that access. I should have just what I need that concerns the pipeline, maybe, for example, or to check or update the secret vault with the new secret. I should have something called fine-grained access. So it's something you have to. Yeah, it's a practice that has to be regulated across the different team members and making sure that everyone has just what they need. Because the security vulnerability is not just from externally; It can also be internally. Someone else can access someone in the team's computer, and from that their computer, they do something to the system. So it's a lot to worry about, and you have to just be as secure as you can be.
Christophe, you raised your hand. Do you still have something to say?
Yes, I just wanted to like add that when they do that ransom attack, sometimes they also give you a mail that you can maybe send one log file where they will decrypt it and send you to just to like show you that they are really the one that did it, and they can encrypt everything.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So yeah.
So,
Next we
are we done with that secret leak talk? I think so. About the secret leak, about leaking secret things. Like I said, this is not something it's not usually intentional. Let's talk about the smallest thing, like the git ignore. You have to make sure that your git ignore file is actually ignoring everything it's supposed to be ignoring. And I notice with most people that learn, when you use a new tool, and when you're learning the new tool, for example, yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can get you.
I think a few of us got disconnected, but like I was saying, when you're learning the new tool, I realize this. Am I back? Hello. Yeah, I think in the just happened. In the just happened. So I'm going to continue with the point. Just for joining this. When learning the new tool, for instance, like when people just pick up Terraform or and any new tool, for instance, then that has that Git that can be monitored on Git. For instance, when they do that, something they usually ignore is updating their Git ignore file. So they end up pushing Terraform code with sensitive credentials or with parts that should not be, or with build files as well. So this thing we're talking about from the developer side, it comes to something as little as your Git ignore file. Make sure it's always up to date. And whenever you pick up a new tool, you make sure that you're not pushing anything you're supposed to be pushing on GitHub. So there is that point about Git ignore, and it could be from that to something as sensitive as your backup database, because I know most cloud systems offer like automatic backups, but it's not 100% like that. So most companies will have another external storage somewhere to back up and send their data to, just in case one of them fails, the other one can recover. So, for instance, if you're going to be running maybe, for instance, a Postgres dump command in a backup server to backup data and send somewhere or store in the same server, you have to be watchful that in your environment, in your shell, the credentials of that database are not totally exposed. So what I mean by this is, if your script is going to be running a pg-dump command, for instance, and you're not going to put your username, I'm going to type that in the comment. You're not going to put in the script, the backup script, your information like this. So yeah, so people usually do this, and since the username and password is a shell variable, it seems to you like it is secure because nobody is seeing it directly, but it's really not, because they just have to have access to your shell and they'll see everything, all the environment variables in the current session. So the best way to go about this would be to have like you use a file for the password and use to having like a .pchas somewhere in the system that no one needs to know. You can just have a .pchas and configure it to configure Postgres to use the password system to access the system. So even if they come up to your shell, they will not see anything in your env. That's one of the things. And so there is also the simplest sharing Slack, for instance. Slack workspaces get hacked every time. If we had to do a report on the number of times Slack teams have gotten hacked, I'm sure they have very sleepy sleepy curve. So it's that kind of practice we're talking about that the team has to adopt. Don't share secrets and sensitive credentials through Slack, through Teams, even your Microsoft Teams, even whatever public channels are. There are vaults for this. There are vaults that you can use for this, and make sure that you're sharing something secure, because the day it does get hacked, the attackers will have access to every conversation that you guys have had in the team. And yeah, I think that's something. I don't know. What do you guys think about these secret leaks? Have you been practicing the best security practice so far in your development area? Do you have something to share concerning secret leaks? Otherwise, maybe I don't know if Joris is back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. So has anyone been following? Is there anyone that has been following these security practices as a developer? One person, let me hear him. Christoph.
Yeah, definitely. We are always always trying to like follow those rules, and also concerning like pushing on Git, especially those who are new, like pushing stuff without creating a Git ignore, or maybe you forgot to include a variable in the Git ignore. When you push on Git, for example, a secret, and after that you try to do another commit, maybe to delete it, you have to remove the history, because sometimes you think that maybe by if you remove it and you push it, you forgot. No, that Git is keeping the history of your data, and later on somebody could come and maybe see. So you have to remove the history so that you will not see it. And if you are maybe lucky, nobody was already there to get access to what you pushed previously.
True. That's another point as well. To undo something you do on Git is not to push a new commit, because the previous commit still has the change. It's better to clean commit. What about you, Brandon? I saw your hand was on. You've also been following this. What has been your experience?
Yeah, well, from my side, mostly making sure that I first of all, when trying to like push to Git, I will first of all create those statics files that will have those special variables, and make sure that I first comment them out, just to ensure that I don't push them initially, so before continuing the development processes, so, and to avoid those type of leakage. Sure.
Okay. So yeah, I'm glad this is a relatable topic. Anyone else has something to share about their own experience with regards to secret leaks? Otherwise, I think we can let Satankwa go ahead with this with the next slide.
All right. So in the next slide, we'll talk about WASP top 10. So the WASP top 10 basically gives us 10, like it lists the most or the common and dangerous vulnerabilities that we need to prevent as we build the test, test and deploy our software. So on the list of WASP top 10, we have broken access control. So basically, it's to defend against improper sorry, is to defend against improper restrictions. So you have to make sure that the user only have the rights, they only have the sufficient permissions they need to do their job. Like Lowe said before, we should apply zero trust security. So we have to really think about fine-grained access control. These cryptographic failures, which talks about weak or misconfigured encryptions. So if you do not apply the best cryptographic policies out there, you might use an outdated cryptographic policy, and the attacker will be able to easily decrypt your data and make use of it. So there's also injection. So attackers can input malicious data into your system and execute it via SQL injection, like Lowe explained before. You might have a query that does this, but the attacker will be able to truncate it and make it run something else. There's also insecure design. So at this stage, we have to prevent security flaws by design. So you have to apply threat modeling, as I said in the design phase of the SDLC. There's threat modeling where everybody has to think about the system. When we design the system, how does it interact with other systems? What could happen? What is the user allowed to do in this system? And what can the attacker outthink to corrupt the system? So basically, this world is a war. As you think about how to secure your system, the attacker out there is thinking about how to corrupt your system. You're thinking about the best security practices, about the best way to make you to take you down. So yeah, it is really a war. And as the security practices and technologies evolve, also the attacking the threats evolve. So basically, this thing will never end. Even if you have the best technologies, the guys they will try to have the best weapons to attack you. And yeah, you have to always think about what if it happens? What if it happens? So we also have security misconfigurations. Yeah. You want to say something, Lowe?
No, I was agreeing with you. So it's something that will never end, and you have to always stay up to date with modern threats. And I think there is a list of known threats that gets updated every time. So when there's a new attack, it's updated, and so that you can always secure your system as you're building.
Yeah, exactly. For most of the popular systems out there or the application, if you Google for common vulnerability and enumerations, you'll find out what are the different vulnerabilities that have been detected on those systems. So just Google CVE for any application that you are using on a daily basis. You'll find out what has been detected and published out there on the application, and maybe also how to remediate. We also have security misconfigurations. So when you deploy your systems, you should make sure, like systems like Kubernetes or Docker, there's also security in those systems. You have to make sure that they are properly configured. Anyone cannot just access the system and run any kubectl command. You can limit maybe that the developers can only have access to the dev namespace. They can just create ports. They cannot do anything else. They cannot create stateful sets or whatever. So you can limit it. You can really fine-grain your security configuration. And also in Docker, one of the best things to do when you use Docker images, you have to use like the lightest image that you can. Like we used to use Alpine images because they have less tools inside. Because more you have tools, more you expose yourself to security vulnerabilities. You don't know what all those tools like what the attacker can do with all those tools inside your application. So you have to really prioritize Alpine images that are smaller in size and in also tools. And you have to make sure to not run your containers as root. Yeah, that is very bad because at the end of the day, containers just run on the base system. They just communicate with your kernel to have all the capabilities that they can do. So if an attacker can exploit your container because it was running as root, he can basically do everything on the application that was running that container. He can exfiltrate data, he can shut down your computer, he can do whatever he wants. So yeah, that's really important. Next, we have vulnerable and outdated components. So using libraries or tools, known flaws that have been updated. So as I said, we have CVEs, common vulnerability enumeration. For every tool that you use out there, the organized bug bounty campaign. So bug bounty campaigns is basically like we organize a campaign where attackers will come and test your system. So white hats, they will test your system and maybe reveal what can go wrong. They will reveal the different flaws that can be part of your system, and they will document that and tell you what to do to be on the right side, to be safe. Yeah, so you have to follow those documents and apply the best practices, update the software as it is done. Yeah, identification and authentication failures. So if you have weak login systems, you can allow attackers to bypass authentication. That is why we usually have two-out authentication in companies. I think nowadays, most of the companies will force you to have the two-out authentication, even if you don't like it. Yeah, it can be very annoying to type your password and have to fetch again another key on, how do we call that application again? Google Authenticator, yeah. But it is really important in case the attacker can get access to your password, he will not be able to get the authenticator. So that is a really important security measure. But I've also seen some recent attacks where attackers were able to provide some, how can I say it? You know, when you want to enable the authenticator, you have to scan a code on the, you have to scan the code on your screen, yeah, with your iPhone or your smartphone, yeah. So attackers were able to change that code, the code that was generated by the system, to a code that will redirect to their own systems. And later on, when you have the tool, when you scan the code, they will take access of your phone. And yeah, that's one of the recent security attacks I've seen. They can compromise that system and take access to your phone and do whatever they can. And well, software and data integrity failures. So yeah, you have to make sure that your CI/CD pipelines are well configured. In the next session, we'll look at one of the recent attacks that happened, and yeah, it was through a CI/CD pipeline that it happened. We have security logging and monitoring failures. Yeah, so we should really emphasize on logging and monitoring every anomalous activity that you can analyze in your system. You should take proper actions. you should report to the security team. You should do whatever necessary it is to stay safe. Yeah. So if you find that normally your activity at this time is like maybe 1,000 requests, and a day you just realize that it reached 5,000 requests. Yeah, you should not just be happy and saying that you have more clients. You should investigate. Maybe it is an attacker trying to send you DDoS attacks or whatever. You should really try to block what is not normal in your system. We also have server-side request forgery. So yeah, with this, attackers can trick your servers and access your internal resources. In in cybersecurity, we have what we call pivoting or lateral movements. So you can really have a very good infrastructure, very well secured, and or you thought about everything. You design everything at every level, and yeah, just one of your clients no, not clients, one of your colleagues will receive like a phishing mail, and he will click on it because he's not really educated about what is phishing. So he might receive a mail from the US embassy and he never applied for a US visa, and he'll be so happy and click on it. What will happen? He might give access to an attacker. The attacker, most of the times, what the attackers do is that on those links, once you open it, your browser will download a code that will be installed in your system. And once it is installed in your system, he will take control. He will try to analyze the network. He will try to like enumerate all the systems you have in your infrastructure, to try to access the different systems. So if it was even a privileged user or a user that you did not well design his security access, the attacker based on that computer can access everything else, and he will just be pivoting around all your system and exfiltrate your data, shut down your systems, compromise your activity. Yeah, those are things that happen. So yeah, security is not securing your system. Is not just all you have to do. You have to educate your users. It is really important that everybody should be educated about what is security, what is phishing, what are ransomwares, what are the different things that happen out there. I've seen, I've heard a story about a woman that was working in a bank, and she used to complain that, okay, the network is very slow. She used to complain to her people back in the quarter, back home, that the network is very slow there. I am not able to work. And one day a guy just gave her a USB flash and told her, okay, plug this USB flash on your computer and your network will be very faster. She took the flash, and yeah, she was not really educated about what is security, what can happen. She just plugged the drive on her computer, and the attacker and the guy who gave the drive was able to access the whole banking system based on that flash, because he imported some ransomware inside. So yeah, you should really educate your users. You should really think about security. In some companies, even you cannot block a drive; the system will block it. So there are a lot of security measures that we can think about. Yeah, so based on what's took them, that's it. I don't know. Do you have something to add on this, Lowe?
I think you pretty much covered it. So the only thing is, we cannot go in depth into this. I think maybe we can do a workshop session for maybe Docker image hardening, Docker image security hardening, where we can have like a sample app and test for vulnerabilities and how to prevent that in your application. That could be a workshop session. There's more than one way to go about this as well, because like I said, there is no hack that works on every situation. Solutions usually depend on the use case. So
exactly.
Your use case, if you might also be able to use like a distroless. There's something called a distroless image a non-root distributed image, an image that does not, you cannot run a single command inside. It's just the build that you had built that you just be running there. That's like one of the secure ways to go about it. But yes, we can do a workshop on this maybe in the future. But for now, the idea is to educate on the theory part. So I don't know what you have in the next slide, Joris.
Okay, we are almost at the end. So yeah, I wanted to share with you some of the recent cyber attacks. We have the 2020 SolarWinds supply chain attack. This is considered as one of the biggest attacks that happened in the recent years. So what happened? SolarWinds is a security company that provides network defend and response tools for a lot of companies out there. They have like 300,000 clients, sorry. Yeah. So what happened to SolarWinds in 2020 is that an attacker was able to breach their internal system and insert a malicious code in their pipeline. So the next release they had was already compromised. It had a malicious code inside it, and when every customer updated the system, so the attacker was able to attack to take control over the CI/CD pipeline. He added the malicious code in the SolarWinds application, and when the update was made on the client side, every client was compromised. The whole systems were compromised, but it was very difficult to recover because it was a network tool. Basically, network tools have access to all the network. They can visualize everything that happens in the network infrastructure. So the malicious code that was maybe updated on one application, on one server, got replicated in every servers in all the organizations, and it was really hard to recover. Most of the organizations had to reinstall their systems really from scratch, because you might know, okay, this was the computer that was attacked, but what has it done in my system? It took a lot of time to really enumerate what happened, and yeah, the best solution for them was to totally reinstall all their systems, but luckily they had backups. So we should also emphasize on having backups. You should always back up your systems. Make sure that in case the worst scenario happens, you have something to recover. Next, we have a more recent one, the 2024 CrowdStrike related IT outages. So this one, in reality, it was not a cyber attack. It was like a developer misconfiguration. So it caused a lot of issues last year. I don't know if you guys heard about it. Did someone hear about this CrowdStrike?
It was a running joke in my company. We kept joking about it. How one person from the dev can post a whole shit show like this. But yeah, I think it just goes to prove more what we're saying. Like it's a practice, and it's not just one person's job to maintain security. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I saw a lot of at that time I saw a lot of news about airports. People were not able to travel because all the computers at the airport were having blue screen of death. They were not able to identify the users that were supposed to take the flight. So it caused a lot of damage to those organizations. The report says that it is over $10 billion that were lost due to that attack. Yeah. So as we said before, secure coding, code review is really important. Those are aspects to not neglect. You see, they were the early stages in the pipeline, but they can affect even at production if you don't take care of it. Yeah, so basically that was all I had to share with you. We can go to the question and answers. Does anyone has a question? Something to share? I don't know.
If no
Or
one has a
anything you
question,
would like in
I think I have a question.
the next session?
I think I would have a question for everyone else. If no one has a question.
Okay.
All right. So it's a basic thing really, but it's the answers the way you answer it as well. I think it helps it helps to look at things a little bit more granular. So I think it was asked in a recent interview, job interview I saw. They asked this to someone, and they asked this to every candidate, and the responses were quite intriguing. So maybe I'll ask this, Joyce, and can let anyone else respond before maybe at the end we could talk about the responses, maybe. So the question went like this: when you go to a web page and you see the lock at the top, it means the site is secure. The question is, how does the web browser know that? I will leave it in the chat in case my English was not good enough. Who is willing to answer? The worries.
Please, Lowe, when you go to a website, and I think it's based on the SSL certificate that is installed, that the browser knows that is a secure website.
Does the browser know from the certificate that it's a secure website? That's the question. What really happened? Yeah.
Based on the digital certificate that is installed.
Installed where? All right. I guess that's your response. Yeah. Christophe, you have a response?
Yes, I think they are well-known company in charge of delivering certificate, and I think the browser knows like those companies. So when you get a certificate from a legitimate company, you are sure that maybe the server that you link with that URL is the one. So there are some verification that have been done, and your browser cross to those certificates because it's coming from those legitimate company that the browser knows.
All right. So that's what happens when this. It means the browser knows the certificate as well. That's correct as well. But if anyone else has something different? Joris, do you want to go?
Yeah, so Christophe was right. Just to give more insights of what goes in the background. So basically, cryptography relies on two keys, what we call public key and private key. So if I am and if it matches here, it will show you that this site is secure. If it does not matches, in red with the bar on it, you're communicating over SSL, but then you're not